was the martyred cowboy of the Revolutionary War? Hi Founder fans, Jason here, and today's founder is a man named Nathaniel Woodhull. Now you might recognize the name Woodhull because his cousin is more famous than him, Abraham Woodhull, who actually was one of the people in charge of the Culper spy ring that performed the espionage in New York City on George Washington's behalf. Nathaniel Woodhull, however, was a lot more famous during his time, and it's surprising he's not more famous today, because when the Revolutionary War broke out, Nathaniel Woodhull was so respected that when the New York Provincial Congress was created, which was essentially a shadow government that the revolutionaries used to run New York, Nathaniel Woodhull was chosen as its first president, which made him de facto governor of New York when the revolution started. Additionally, he had experience as a militiaman, a military man I should say, from the French and Indian War, and therefore was commissioned as a brigadier general in the New York State Militia and given command of all the forces on Long Island, which was a significantly populated area. So not only was he one of the leading military men, he was essentially governor. And this was when the war broke out and when the Declaration of Independence was signed, he was in this position. Now, New York would go on to create a new government and elect Governor George Clinton, who's more famous as the first governor of New York. But Nathaniel Woodhull continued working with the military and in fact was asked by George Washington to go on a special mission. You see, in August of 1776, just after independence had been declared, the British were making their way to New York City, and their ships sat outside New York Harbor just waiting to take it. So Washington asked Nathaniel Woodhull to go to the western portion of Long Island and scan towards the east and collect all of the cattle that the Patriots, didn't matter whose cattle it was, Patriot or Loyalist, he was going to take all of it so that the British Army couldn't get it and use it for themselves. Now this is not really a cattle drive, he wasn't really the first cowboy, but it was one of the earliest cattle drives in American history because he went, and I'll remind you, Long Island is bigger than almost any other island in the United States. It's about 20 miles north to south and about 120 miles east to west, and he was going up and down taking all the cattle. Unfortunately, he ran into a little bit of trouble when some thunderstorms struck and he had to take cover, and he took cover in a friend's house. And during this time, the British came a-knocking, and they found him at this house. Now, exactly what went down when the British were there is up for some debate, and I will get back to that in a second, but we do know that Nathaniel Woodhull was not only struck in the head, but bayoneted in the arm by the British before being taken captive and put on a prison ship. Now, it was quickly realized that the cut on his arm was significant and it was going to be a problem. It could kill him. And it was also realized that he was one of the most important founders in New York at the time. So that's a chip you don't want to lose if you're the British and you want to maybe exchange some prisoners from some high-ranking British prisoners. So they brought him off the ship and tried to amputate his arm to save his life. But unfortunately, this didn't work, and he passed away on September 20th, 1776, which is very early on. It's just 2 or 3 months after independence had been declared. 3 months, I can count. 3 months after independence had been declared. And because of this, he became one of several people who were a martyr to the American cause, and his name was used and he was pointed to as a monument to British brutality and how hostile the British could be. Now, this was only true to a degree, but there were several people who suffered fates they seemingly didn't deserve, and Nathaniel Woodhull was one of them. Now, as far as what happened while he was there, accounts differ. There was a famous account that says the British came and said, Nathaniel Woodhull, say, "God save the king," and he said, "God save us all." Now, that's probably not true. That's the most famous story, but it wasn't written until 70 years after he died. It's probably not true. Even the accounts at the time seemed to conflict. One friend of his wrote to Connecticut and said he essentially was told to remove his saber because he had been captured and he refused to do that. And another friend wrote to New York City and said he was being questioned and he sat there in silence, and that's why they beat him up. Fortunately, we'll never know. It's a sad end to not only the first cattle drive in American history, but the first one of the earliest and most ardent patriots and one of the most important leaders of revolutionary New York, who today is forgotten. And hopefully we've changed that. So I hope I've informed you a little bit. I hope I inspired you to look into Nathaniel Woodhull a little bit more. Very interesting family from Long Island, one of the wealthiest, most important in Suffolk County, New York, to the Revolution. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like, and make sure you subscribe so you get notifications, because I do videos that are live and recap the articles I wrote every Wednesday, and tomorrow's Wednesday. So I could really hope you join us for that. We have a nice conversation, a few of us talking about some of the things we learned this week. So please come join us and hit subscribe, because you won't get the notifications. I've noticed most people who watch these videos are not subscribed, so it might help you and me if you do. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back with you tomorrow.